Hi, welcome back. Today I'm going to answer a question that I get asked a lot. Can I retire before 60? Let's get into it. So when people come to me and say, I want to retire in my 50s, the short answer is that's probably not possible unless you have a defined benefit pension or you have a boatload of cash. And I'm talking $2 to $3 million invested. And here's why. When it comes to financial planning, really what I'm doing is I'm putting together a mathematical model. And in a math model, there's a beginning and there's an end. And if you're retiring early, which by my definition is anything before 65, you are obviously adding years to the model, right? It doesn't affect your life expectancy. Whatever you decide that we should be looking at for life expectancy, that's not affected by the fact that you're retiring early. You're just adding years. But not only are you adding years, you're adding the most expensive years. And not only are you adding the most expensive years at the beginning, you're also taking away your best years with your investments and your compound interest. Let me go into that a little bit further. So let's, for the sake of illustration, highlight 65 versus 55. So a 10-year difference. And this is what I mean by you're adding the most expensive years. So when you first enter your retirement, whatever year it is that is your first year of retirement, that is going to be your most expensive year in retirement. It's not because you're spending more, although that may be true, but it's because compound interest hasn't helped you yet accommodate for the money that you're getting. So for every $1,000 you want in your hand in your first year of retirement, assuming it's coming from an RSP, you need to do a withdrawal of about $1,400 gross. There'll be $400 withheld, and then you'll get $1,000 in your hand. And that's assuming a 30% withholding tax, which we can go into that at a later date. But you need $1,400 to get $1,000 in your hand. 10 years from now, you need $860 right now, assuming a 5% return. It will grow to $1,400, so you can get your $1,000. 20 years from now, it'll be $528 invested now. That will grow to the $1,400 that you need. 30 years from now, you just need $324 invested now to grow to $1,400 then, so you can get your $1,000 then. That's why I'm saying that the first years are by far the most expensive years. So by adding 10 of those, you're not proportionately adding 10 years of expensive retirement. You're disproportionately adding the most expensive years possible. And in all likelihood, if we go to the analogy of go, go, slow, go, no go, you're probably in pretty decent health, or at least compared to what you will be in your 70s and 80s. So those will be go years. So you're adding the most expensive years while you're spending the most in the best health for your particular situation. It's just this compounding kind of impact of that spending. All right, the flip side of this is compound interest. Now, most of us have probably seen the graph like this, right? Where it's relatively flat and then it really flares towards the end. What's happening there is your investments have grown to a point where the investment return is actually providing more to the assets than you are with your monthly or annual contributions. And that's a beautiful place to be in. I think compound interest, which is often referred to as the eighth wonder of the world, is one of the most beautiful things in the world. As a side note, if you don't understand compound interest and you're on the flip side of it, it's also one of the most destructive forces in the world, financially speaking. So if we're sacrificing those really flared out years, you're sacrificing a lot. As an example, 10 years at 5% on $500,000 investment will cost you $314,000 in compound interest if you don't allow your investment to do that over that time. You take away all of that compound interest while simultaneously drawing your investment down. That is a massively compounded impact on why retiring early is so expensive and so hard. Now, I've been a pretty huge bummer in this video, and I want to be really clear about something. If you haven't watched my video where I go through the 3 different levels of financial independence, I would really encourage you to go and do that after watching this. But if you are in your 50s and you really want to retire and you're level 2 financially independent, which means you have enough now to retire when you get to 65, you just have to get to 65, you can always make changes. Lots of employers these days are being a lot more flexible than they ever have in the past. You can go and say, I don't want to be level 11 stressed every day. Please give me a less stressful workload with a pay reduction, because all I need to do is get to 65. Or maybe you go and work somewhere else, or maybe you help your kid get a business off the ground as long as they're paying you, because the objective there is only to get to 65 and while covering your expenses. So yes, retiring in your 50s, very, very difficult. It's a monumental task. And for those of you who can, I tip my hat to you, absolutely. But for lots of people, it's probably not possible. But getting to a point where you can say, I'm 55 or I'm 58, I hate my job, I'm in a good position financially, I'm going to take a reduction in stress, or I'm going to move my position, or I'm going to leave this job and go to a different one, is an absolutely viable option that I would encourage you to consider. So if it's time for us to review your financial plan, see if retiring in your 50s is in fact viable, or if we're going to encourage you to retire in your 60s, it's time for your financial plan with K4. There's a link in the description down below, which will come directly to me. And until next time, keep planning.